Private endpoints in Azure provide a secure and private connection to Azure PaaS services. By using private endpoints, you can ensure that your traffic remains within the Azure network, reducing exposure to the public internet. This is crucial for maintaining security and compliance in your cloud environment. Private endpoints leverage the Azure Private Link Service, which assigns a private IP address from your VNet to the PaaS resource, making it accessible only within your virtual network. Private endpoints offer several benefits, including enhanced security by eliminating exposure to the public internet, improved compliance with regulatory requirements, and reduced risk of data exfiltration. They also provide a seamless and transparent experience for users and applications, as the private endpoint appears as a regular IP address within the VNet. Additionally, private endpoints simplify network architecture by removing the need for complex firewall rules and network address translation (NAT) configurations. The key components of private endpoints include the private link service, which facilitates the creation of private endpoints, and the private IP address assigned to the PaaS resource. Other components include the virtual network (VNet), where the private endpoint resides, the DNS configuration to resolve the private endpoint's IP address, and the network security groups (NSGs) that control traffic to and from the private endpoint. Understanding these components is essential for effectively configuring and managing private endpoints. Azure Private Endpoints support a wide range of Azure PaaS services, including Azure Storage, Azure SQL Database, Azure Cosmos DB, Azure Key Vault, and Azure App Service. Each of these services can be accessed securely through a private endpoint, ensuring that your data and applications remain protected within the Azure network. It's important to check the specific documentation for each service to understand any limitations or special configurations required when using private endpoints. To create a private endpoint, you need to navigate to the Azure portal and select the PaaS resource you want to secure. From there, you can create a new private endpoint by specifying the virtual network and subnet where the private endpoint will reside. You'll also need to configure DNS settings to ensure that the private endpoint's IP address can be resolved within your network. Once the private endpoint is created, you can test connectivity to ensure that it is functioning as expected. Configuring DNS is a critical step in setting up private endpoints. You need to ensure that the private endpoint's IP address can be resolved within your virtual network. This typically involves creating a private DNS zone and linking it to your VNet. You can then create DNS records for the private endpoint, allowing your applications to connect to the PaaS resource using its private IP address. Proper DNS configuration ensures seamless connectivity and avoids potential issues with name resolution. Network security groups, NSGs, play a vital role in securing private endpoints. NSGs allow you to define inbound and outbound security rules that control traffic to and from the private endpoint. By configuring NSGs, you can ensure that only authorized traffic is allowed to access the PaaS resource, further enhancing security. It's important to regularly review and update NSG rules to align with your security policies and to monitor traffic patterns for any unusual activity. Monitoring and troubleshooting are essential aspects of managing private endpoints. Azure provides various tools and services, such as Azure Monitor and Network Watcher, to help you monitor the health and performance of your private endpoints. You can set up alerts to notify you of any issues and use diagnostic logs to investigate and resolve problems. Regular monitoring ensures that your private endpoints are functioning correctly and helps you quickly address any connectivity or performance issues. To get the most out of private endpoints, it's important to follow best practices. These include using private endpoints for all supported PaaS services to minimize exposure to the public internet, regularly reviewing and updating NSG rules, and ensuring proper DNS configuration. Additionally, you should monitor the performance and health of your private endpoints and use Azure Policy to enforce compliance with your organization's security standards. Following these best practices helps you maintain a secure and efficient cloud environment. Private endpoints are commonly used in scenarios where security and compliance are paramount. For example, financial institutions can use private endpoints to securely connect to Azure SQL Database, ensuring that sensitive financial data is not exposed to the public internet. Similarly, healthcare organizations can use private endpoints to access Azure storage, protecting patient data and complying with regulations such as HIPAA. Understanding these use cases helps you identify opportunities to leverage private endpoints in your own environment. Advanced configurations for private endpoints include setting up multiple private endpoints for high availability, using Azure Firewall to inspect traffic to and from private endpoints, and integrating with third-party security solutions. You can also configure service endpoints alongside private endpoints for additional security layers. These advanced configurations provide greater flexibility and control over your network architecture, allowing you to tailor your setup to meet specific security and performance requirements. A financial services company needed to secure its Azure SQL database to comply with regulatory requirements. By implementing private endpoints, the company was able to ensure that all database traffic remained within the Azure network, reducing the risk of data breaches. The company also configured NSGs to restrict access to the private endpoint and used Azure Monitor to track performance and detect any anomalies. This approach not only enhanced security, but also simplified the network architecture, making it easier to manage and maintain. A healthcare organization required a secure way to store and access patient data in Azure storage. By using private endpoints, the organization ensured that all data transfers occurred within the Azure network, protecting sensitive patient information. The organization also set up a private DNS zone to resolve the private endpoint's IP address and configured NSGs to control access. This setup helped the organization comply with HIPAA regulations and provided a secure and efficient way to manage patient data. As cloud adoption continues to grow, the use of private endpoints is expected to become more widespread. Future developments may include enhanced integration with other Azure services, improved monitoring and management tools, and expanded support for additional PaaS services. Staying informed about these trends and developments helps you take advantage of new features and capabilities, ensuring that your cloud environment remains secure and efficient. Keeping an eye on the evolving landscape of private endpoints allows you to proactively address emerging security challenges. Configuring private endpoints for Azure PaaS is a crucial step in securing your cloud environment. By understanding the benefits, key components, and best practices, you can effectively implement and manage private endpoints to protect your data and applications. As you move forward, consider exploring advanced configurations and staying informed about future trends to continuously improve your network security. Taking these steps ensures that you are well prepared to leverage private endpoints for a secure and compliant Azure environment.